Welcome to People in Profit. I'm Kate Moody. Coming up in this week's show, an unprecedented boycott campaign in Morocco. We look at the situation on the ground and the price rises that are driving discontent. Bracing for turbulence ahead as Air France tries to forge a fresh future, we look at how new players are shaping Europe's airline industry. And the cost of running a castle. We meet the owners of one of the Loire Valley's most famous chateaux and find out the day-to-day operations are just as much business as pleasure. It began online, a call from Moroccans to boycott 3 major producers of bottled water, gasoline and dairy products. The groups are accused of maintaining monopolies in their sectors and pushing prices to artificially high and unsustainable levels. The organisers of the campaign remain anonymous, but the pace at which public support has spread has caught authorities off guard. Our correspondent sent this report.
Rejected. This brand of waters from one of the companies faced with a popular boycott in Morocco. Since April the 20th, the boycott movement has spread quickly across the country, targeting the high cost of living.
A moment of solidarity has been declared. Prices are rising and wages don't reflect this. It's not normal.
As the movement's grown, orders on boycotted products have shrunk.
Suppliers are coming to us, begging us to buy their products because they have too much stock. But I tell them that I don't have the money to buy a product. I won't be able to sell. It's the customers who decide. We can't do what we want.
Water, milk and petrol brands have been targeted by the boycott. Service stations have also been affected by a drop in sales. To explain the soaring prices at the pump, these trade unionists blame the cutting of fuel subsidies 2 years ago. They say that market competition that should have benefited customers ultimately only benefits the distributors.
The 5 big Moroccan distributors currently hold around 80 to 85% of the market. They dictate the final price.
This belief is clearly shared by the crowds of people attending public meetings where Moroccans are open about their support for the boycott.
The Moroccan people have decided to do this because we can't survive anymore.
Food prices are as high as Europe, while the minimum Moroccan wage here is worth around 230 euros. It's ridiculous.
Consumer groups say these public actions should be taken seriously.
Listening to the customer, whether at the professional level or even at governmental and administrative level, is very important. The customer is a key player, and if we ignore them, we will suffer consequences that could be very harmful for the national economy.
It is still difficult to quantify the economic impact of this social network movement, but some polls say it could be supported by over 80% of Moroccans.
Now for more, I'm joined by economist Younes Belfella. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
The official inflation rate in Morocco climbed from 1.8% to 2.5% in March. How big a problem is the cost of living?
I think the problem is it's not the inflation. It's like the inflation of the price. I think this question of boycott some products, it's a new way to express anger against the economic model in general. Okay, so we talk about more crony capitalism now in Morocco, monopoly of markets by some companies, and also I think the problem that's concerned some necessary products for people. Okay, so we talk about milk, we talk about coffee, we talk about oil, petroleum products. So this is very important for any people, for any customers in the market. But this question of inflation, I think it's only one part for this general situation in Morocco. We have also a question of distribution of economic wealth. Okay, so when we find, like for example, 3 regions from 16 regions monopolize like 70% of the gross domestic products in the country.
What is the government doing about that? Is it undertaking the right kind of reforms?
I think now the problem of the government, it's not question of economy, because we have a problem of political situation for the government. Okay, it's a government now, it's a coalition between different political parts, and with political parties, we don't have the same vision about the economy. And we have also question of the power, the government power. The government in Morocco don't have the most important power to manage the situation in economy, especially when we talk about strategy or policy for long term.
Now, Morocco does remain a fairly stable force in the region. What are the biggest challenges ahead for its economy?
I think now the biggest challenge is this question of institutions, how we can create institutions. These institutions can give us the trust to develop more economy. And also we need more effort in terms of entrepreneurship, how we can motivate the young people in Morocco to creating some small or medium enterprise. This is the big challenge now for Morocco, especially as we say that we have a golden opportunity with this stability policy.
Circling back to this boycott movement that we've been hearing about, do you think that it could bring about any change? Is this the beginning of something bigger?
I don't think it's at the beginning of something bigger like a revolution, for example. The situation of Morocco, it's different than the other countries in the region like Egypt or Tunisia. But I think in Morocco we have this question of reforms. Okay, we have some continuous improvement doing by the king, by the government, by the political part at its moment to develop the situation in Morocco. And you have this interactive situation between people and the government. Okay, so we will need in the future to make more efforts in this question, and we organize our situation. Especially now we have a new generation of businessmen in Morocco. Making some projects, making a most important investment now in Morocco, and we should organize this relationship between businessmen, state, and customers or people in final.
Younes Belfella, thank you so much for joining us here on People and Profit. Next, Air France unions have vowed to continue their walkouts, doubling down on their calls for an immediate 5.1% pay rise. The chief executive stepped down after a company-wide referendum followed unions' leads in rejecting management's counter-offer. Weeks of strikes have already cost the carrier over 300 million euros. The French government, which owns a 14% stake in the airline, warned employees that Air France would have to reform or its very survival could be at stake.
If the company does not make the necessary efforts to remain competitive, Air France will disappear, and I do not want that to happen. I appeal to the sense of responsibility of everyone involved, flight crew, ground staff, the pilots asking for unjustified pay increases. Those who think that whatever happens, the state will come to the rescue and just mop up any losses are wrong.
Brian Quinn's been taking a look at the European airline industry and Air France's place in it. Brian?
Thanks, Kate. Well, Europe's legacy carriers have faced turbulence in recent years as competition from Middle Eastern airlines and low-cost carriers has radically shifted the marketplace. For some, mergers and painful cost-cutting efforts have resulted in smoother cruising. After years of losses, Air France-KLM posted operating profits of nearly €1.5 billion for 2017, a rise of 42%. IAG, parent to British Airways and Iberia, turned €3 billion in operating profits last year, a gain of nearly 19%. For Lufthansa, it was just under €3 billion, a 70% annual boost. But cautionary tales abound. After running up losses for years, Italy's flagship, Alitalia, went bankrupt in 2017. The new normal in air travel, low-cost carriers, who now handle nearly 50% of all European flights. Ryanair is now Europe's largest airline by capacity, followed by EasyJet, with Lufthansa the only traditional carrier that even comes close. So how does the old guard compete? Often by launching their own low-cost subsidiaries for shorter flights. Air France-KLM has the June and Transavia brands. Lufthansa has Eurowings. IAG has Vueling. Flagship carriers have been holding on to their more lucrative long-haul routes, but even those now face increasing low-cost competition. The popularity of Norwegian Air's transatlantic service has given rise to newcomers like WOW Air and Primera, both headquartered in Iceland. Norwegian's passenger count grew 13% last year, WOW's by 69%. Well, between recent low fuel prices and an economic recovery, this fierce competition in Europe's airline market has taken place under relatively favorable conditions lately. But with oil prices on the rise, Brexit on the horizon, and costly labor strikes afoot, the industry could be facing more storms ahead.
Brian, thanks so much for that update. Its instantly recognizable silhouette draws thousands of visitors every year, offering a peek into a life of luxury and a bygone era. But for the modern-day owners of the Shivani Chateau in the heart of French wine country, this is very much a family business. Julia Kim reports.
It's one of the most famous palaces in France's Loire Valley. Shivani was immortalized in the classic comic book series Tintin as Captain Haddock's mansion, Marlinspike Hall. Its real owner is Charles-Antoine de Vibré. Shivani has stayed in his family for over 6 centuries, but it's more than just his home. It's also a major tourist attraction, which welcomes 350,000 visitors every year. This spring, de Vibré expects crowds to stop and smell the flowers. He spent 20,000 euros on 120,000 tulips.
It's always costly, but you need to know when to invest. To get people to come, then come back in droves, you need to give them something beautiful to look at.
De Vibré runs the sprawling estate like a small business and employs 50 people. Shivani receives no government aid, which means it relies on tourist dollars to survive. To attract new visitors, de Vibré's wife has launched exciting new plans.
We've created a tea room, we've created suites, and expanded the boutique.
Stretching over 200 square meters, Shivani's gift shop brings in nearly €1 million a year. Constance de Vibré hopes her new idea to open up the chateau's annex to guests will have the same success. For 370 euros a night, this family will get to sleep a stone's throw away from the palace. But Shivani's upkeep is expected to eat into any new income streams. Here on the building's north facade, all the plastering needs to be redone at a cost of 450,000 euros. But this hasn't stopped Charles-Antoine from planning Shivani's new vineyard. De Vibré hopes his plans will bear fruit before he gives his youngest son the keys to the castle.
That's all for this week. If you have any thoughts or questions about the stories we've been covering, you can get in touch on Facebook at France 24 Business, or you can tweet me at Kate A. Moody. Until next time, thanks for watching.